for the fourth time, we saw Figgy versus Moreno. This was probably the fight that the most hardcore fans were excited to see on the card. These two guys have delivered every time out, 3 previous, and here we come for the fourth fight. The one to settle the score. It was 1-1-1 going in. And damn it, we were really hoping we wouldn't get a draw this time. And we didn't. Brandon Moreno made sure of that, Dom. Because this was a very high-level fight, much like how the third one felt. You know, each fight has had a different feeling to it in a lot of ways. The first fight felt like those two guys coming off of just a 1-month turnaround back in at the end of 2020, put on just an absolute war, barn burner, fight of the year type go that went to a draw. They rematched that summer. Moreno puts up one of the best performances of the year, a complete masterclass. Then Deiveson comes back for the third go-round to begin 2022, and he gets the belt back after a very high-level 5-round fight. And then here the fourth one, Dom, probably the weakest of the 4, but that's not a slight on this fight, just because I think the other 3 have just been so memorable and so great. With this fight, it was competitive. It was very high level, like I said. I think it was pretty clearly like 1-1 going into that third round. And then Moreno landed a perfect shot, knuckle to the eye of Deiveson Figueiredo. And that was pretty much all she wrote, Dom. I mean, the rest of the round, you know, Moreno was on top. But you could tell that eye from the right eye of Deiveson was just absolutely fucked. After the bell, they go to their corners. You could tell Deiveson can't even open that eye. So the doctor calls it. That's it. TKO stoppage at the end of round 3, essentially. So Moreno gets the belt back, Dom, and he does it on enemy soil, however you want to word it, in Brazil. He is now the flyweight champion. It feels like the end of an era because Deiveson announced afterwards, Dom, he's moving to bantamweight. So we can talk about that too, but for now, the Assassin Baby is now back at the top of the flyweight division, looking ahead to potentially some guys who have yet to get that opportunity. A guy like the backup for this fight, Alexandre Pantoja, perhaps could be next for this title. So now you're going to start seeing some guys who we haven't really been thinking too much about in this title mix because these two have been kind of hogging the spotlight for the last 3 years. And you get Brandon Moreno, a very likable champion, a young enough guy to where he could go on a run here. What's the excitement level for you, Dom? I know you're a big Assassin Baby fan, so let me know how you're feeling.
Yeah, man. What an end to that saga, to that rivalry. 4 fights, the first time ever in UFC history. It really was a storybook, man. Those two were just born to fight each other. And they treated us to a show every time. They put the flyweight division on the map when it really needed it, and it was just awesome. So it's good to see that chapter come to a close. It opens that title picture for people that have not had an opportunity at all, like Noah mentioned, which I think is awesome. Especially Pantoja, right? We've been waiting on it, and it looks like he's going to get that chance. Him and Brandon met backstage, had some laughs, had some hugs, and I think that's a super exciting fight. Pantoja seems to be coming into his all right now. Moreno, obviously the champion. Those two, I believe, fought before Noah and Pantoja won, if I'm not mistaken. Or I can't remember the exact situation, but I think they have fought before. I can be fact-checked there, of course. But that's exciting. And then you look outside of that at these other contenders that can now throw their hat in the mix for a title shot. Much like we were just saying for light heavyweight and how it's kind of opened the doors for more people to let's start pushing into the title picture. The same can be said here for flyweight, man. Once ruled by a dominant champion, now the title's been kind of held up by 2 men for the past 2.5 years, and now it opens up here. And no better man to kind of lead that charge as the champion as Brandon Moreno. He has the whole country of Mexico behind him. The UFC seems to love him as a potential star to continue building him into a star, I should say. It's exciting. He's an exciting, very likable guy. And I'm just glad to see our flyweights getting some respect, getting some shine. Let's have some fun fights in 2023. Yeah, what do you think about Pantoja and Moreno, by the way? Because that's probably what will be that first defense for Brandon.
I think it's a perfect first defense for
Yeah.
Moreno because you are right, Dom. They did fight before. Pantoja got the unanimous decision win. That was on the Damian Maia versus Kamaru Usman card, May 2018 fight night in Chile.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's a little trip down memory lane. I actually think I'm pretty sure Moreno got cut at some point after that fight because that was during that weird time when the UFC were contemplating removing their men's flyweight
Hmm.
division. And now look at us. Here we are in 2023, and the division feels like it's one of the strongest it's ever been. So shout
Hmm.
out to those guys. Deiveson Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, these guys deserve so much credit for, yes, Henry Cejudo as well. You can put him in there. Those three guys, in their own ways, feel like they have injected a lot of life into this division. And
Yep.
now that Davison's announced he's going to bantamweight, it's on Brandon Moreno's shoulders to now sort of carry this into the new wave. The guy like Pantoja, who, when these two fight again, if assuming that's the next title fight, Dom, as much as we love this fight and think it's the right fight, admittedly, Pantoja is going to be one of the more unknown title challengers of
Hmm.
recent memory. Unfortunately,
Yep.
he's not been given the kind of opportunities and the kind of spotlight that a guy of his talent and caliber should. As far as this division's come, it still has a long way to go. We're still at a point where top 10 matchups are deep on the prelims. So it's definitely in a good spot, but we got to keep trying to build that momentum. And Moreno's kind of the perfect face to potentially keep pushing that division forward. And then you got fighters around him, like Pantoja, like Alex Perez or Brandon Royval or Kai Kara France, guys like
Hmm.
Manel Kopp on the way up. These are guys that I think. Even I'm going to give a shout out to like Matt Schnell and Sue Maderji, who had an amazing fight last year. Those kind of guys, those kind of fights are what's going to really get this division to a point where it is of equal level, equal footing to some of the biggest divisions in the company. And another
Hmm.
underrated part about this night, Dom, is that the pieces are in place for 2023 to be the biggest year in Mexican MMA history. Now, follow
Hmm.
me here. The
Hmm.
pieces are in place because
Hmm.
next month, Yair Rodriguez will be competing against Josh Emmett for the interim featherweight title.
Hmm.
Then, March 4th, UFC 285, Valentina Shevchenko will be defending her women's flyweight title against Alexa Grasso.
Hmm.
And don't know if, assuming this fight happens, it was sort of announced, but now it's not confirmed yet. It looks like Amanda Nunes' next title defense for her bantamweight title will be against Irene Aldana. So
Yep.
that's 4 title fights right now where a Hispanic MMA fighter is challenging for a title. So,
Hmm.
Dominic, we could potentially, by summer, have 4 undisputed slash interim Hispanic champions in the UFC. Now, obviously, an uphill battle when you're talking about Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, but I think the pieces are in place, and now it's just on these fighters to execute and get the job done. And this could be just a massive year for MMA in Mexico and pushing next. So we know Mexico, even though, yes, there is a lot of love for MMA there, it is a boxing country. Boxing has had a stronghold on Mexico for such a long time. Guys like Julio Cesar Chavez, these guys have become literal monuments, bigger gods in Mexico. So now guys like Moreno and Yair and Alexa Grasso and Irene Aldana, they have the opportunity to put their stamp and being sort of pioneers in this market and make it the biggest year yet for that country. So, what a time it could be. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it unfold. And for all we know, Dom, 4 new Hispanic champions by the summer. It'd be unprecedented.
Oh, dude, Noah, you absolutely hit that on the head. Incredible to bring that up, and I'm so glad you did because how long has the UFC been pinpointing Mexico and Latin America as an area that they want to just hit hard and build potential, build the sport, build athletes down there? And look, 4 opportunities potentially to get champions in the same calendar year. And imagine, Noah, that they do it. No country has ever done that before in MMA, right? I don't even think like the United States would have 4 new champions from the country in the same calendar, 365 days. Like that would be absolutely unprecedented, historical. Just and when you look at some of the upsets that could happen to make that possible, dude, absolute explosion for Mexican MMA, for the sport to just evolve down there, and for again, like look at how Raul Rosas Jr. from Mexico, 18, 19 years old. There are kids down there following in his footsteps. The sport down there is so bright for the future, and it's spearheaded by these 4 people that you just mentioned. I got goosebumps even thinking about it.
Yeah, so